Admiral Vextar stood before the massive viewing screen of the Zephyrian flagship Eternal Dominion. The blue and green planet below spun slowly in the darkness of space. His 4 eyes studied the swirling white clouds that covered much of the surface. This was the 3rd planet from the star the local inhabitants called Sol, the planet they called Earth. Fascinating, he muttered to himself. His long, gray fingers drummed against the metal railing. Behind him, dozens of his officers worked, at glowing control panels. The bridge hummed with quiet activity. Commander Zelnox approached from behind. Her silver uniform gleamed under the bridge lights. "Admiral, our scans are complete. The dominant species is exactly as our advanced scouts reported." Vexitar turned to face her. "Tell me again about these humans." Zelnox activated a holographic display between them. Images of humans appeared in the air. Men, women, children of different colors and sizes rotated slowly in the light. "They are bipedal mammals, Admiral. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They have only 2 eyes, which limits their vision significantly. Their technology is primitive. They have barely mastered nuclear fission and have only just begun to explore their own solar system." The Admiral nodded. "And their population?" "Approximately 8 billion individuals spread across 7 continents. They are divided into hundreds of separate political groups called nations. These nations frequently engage in conflicts with each other over resources and territorial disputes." Vextar laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed across the bridge. "Divided and primitive. This will be even easier than the Karanti homeworld." Another officer approached. This was Science Officer Thexum, whose pale blue skin marked him as one of the research caste. "Admiral, I must report something unusual about these humans." "What kind of unusual?" Thexum's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "They are unpredictable, sir. More than any species we have encountered. Our behavioral models cannot accurately predict their actions. They make choices that seem to contradict their own survival instincts." The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. "All primitive species are chaotic. They lack the discipline that comes with proper evolution and technology. Once they see our superior firepower, they will submit like all the others." The science officer looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps, Admiral, but I recommend caution. There are things about their history that concern me." "Such as?" "They wage war constantly, sir. Not just occasional conflicts over resources, but continuous warfare spanning their entire recorded history. And the scale keeps growing. In their most recent global war, they killed over 70 million of their own kind." Vextar's eyes narrowed. 70 million? That seems excessive even for primitives." "Yes, sir. And they developed nuclear weapons not for power generation, but specifically to kill each other more efficiently. They built enough nuclear weapons to destroy their entire planet several times over." The Admiral considered this information. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 43 worlds over the past 2 centuries. Most species surrendered quickly, when faced with superior technology. Those that resisted were usually defeated within days. Even the most warlike races they had encountered were nothing compared to Zephyrian military might. "Interesting but irrelevant," Vextar decided. "Their weapons are crude compared to ours. Our plasma cannons can burn through their strongest materials. Our shields can deflect their most powerful missiles. What can primitives do against technology they cannot even understand?" On the viewing screen, Earth continued its slow rotation. Cities sparkled like scattered jewels across the dark continents. Millions of lights marked where humans lived their short lives, unaware that their world was being watched. Commander Zelnox activated another display. "Our fleet consists of 12 battleships, 30 cruisers, and 75 support vessels. Each battleship alone carries enough firepower to level one of their major cities." "Excellent. How long before we are in position?" "We can begin the demonstration phase within 6 hours, Admiral." Vextar nodded approvingly. The demonstration phase was standard protocol. The Empire would destroy a few military targets to show their power. Usually this was enough to convince any reasonable species to surrender. If not, they would escalate gradually until resistance collapsed. "Sir," another officer called out, "we are receiving transmissions from the planet. Multiple sources, many different languages. Put them through. The bridge filled with the sound of human voices, news broadcasts, military communications, civilian conversations. The translation systems worked quickly to convert the alien words into Zephyrian. Breaking news tonight: strange objects have appeared in orbit around Earth. All military units are ordered to highest alert status. My God, they're huge. There must be dozens of them. Vextar listened with amusement. Fear and confusion dominated the human communications. This was exactly what they expected. Soon would come the desperate attempts at communication, followed by offers of surrender. But as the hours passed, something unexpected happened. The fear in human voices began to change. It did not disappear, but it transformed into something else, something harder. All units, this is General Morrison. We know what we're facing. Make them pay for every inch. This is President Chen to all world leaders. The time for old grudges is over. We stand together now, or we fall alone. Citizens of Earth, this is Prime Minister Okafor. They have made a grave mistake. They think we are weak because we fight each other. They will learn that we fight each other because we are very, very good at fighting. Vexitar frowned. This was not the usual pattern. Where were the pleas for mercy? Where were the offers of surrender? Science Officer Thexum appeared at his side. Again. Admiral, I am monitoring their global communications network. Something unprecedented is happening. Explain. They are unifying, sir. Every nation, every political group, every military force on the planet is joining together. I have never seen anything like this in our records of previous conquests. On the screen, images from Earth showed massive crowds gathering in cities around the world. Humans of all kinds stood together holding signs and banners. The translation systems worked to decode the messages. Come and take it. Not one step back. Make them pay. Admiral Vextar felt a strange unease creep into his thoughts. In over 50 years of military service, he had never seen a species react this way to the presence of a superior force. Most either panicked or immediately began negotiations. These humans seemed to be preparing for war. Commander Zelnox, move the fleet into attack formation. We will begin the demonstration, earlier than planned. Yes, Admiral. Which targets should we select? Vextar studied the planet below. According to their intelligence, humans valued their major cities and military installations above all else. Destroying a few of these should break their will to resist. Target their largest military base and one major population center. We will show them the futility of resistance. As the Zephyrian fleet moved into position, their sensors picked up increased activity on the planet's surface. Human spacecraft, primitive but numerous, began launching from dozens of locations. Military forces mobilized across every continent. Most strangely of all, civilian populations began evacuating not away from military targets, but toward them. Men, women, and children streamed toward the very places the Zephyrians planned to attack. Why are they moving toward the targets? Zelnox asked, confusion clear in her voice. Science Officer Thexum checked his readings again. I believe they intend to use their own people as shields, sir. But that makes no strategic sense. It will not stop our weapons. Vextar stared at the screen, watching thousands of humans position themselves around military installations. They were not running away from the coming destruction. They were running toward it. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vextar began to wonder if they had made a mistake in coming to this small blue world. The first plasma bolt from the Zephyrian fleet struck Edwards Air Force Base in the California desert. The beam of superheated energy carved through buildings like they were made of paper. Concrete vaporized, metal melted, and everything within a mile radius simply ceased to exist. A mushroom cloud of debris and smoke rose into the morning sky. Admiral Vextar watched the destruction from his command chair. The demonstration had worked perfectly. Now they would wait for the inevitable, surrender communications. But the human response was not what anyone expected. Sir, Communications Officer Ziltho called out, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. It appears to be from their Global Leadership Council. Put it through. The main screen flickered and showed a group of humans sitting around a curved table. They wore different uniforms and clothing representing various nations. At the center sat an older human female with gray hair and determined eyes. This is Secretary General Martinez of the United Nations. We have received your demonstration of power. Vextar leaned forward. Finally, the surrender he expected. We reject any demands for submission. The human continued. We understand you. Believe us to be weak and divided. You are wrong on both counts. You have made the greatest mistake in your species' history. You have given humanity a common enemy. The transmission ended abruptly. Vextar blinked his 4 eyes in confusion. Had these primitives just declared war against the entire Zephyrian fleet? Sir, sensor operator Vexim reported from his station. I am detecting massive energy signatures across the planet. They appear to be detonating their own nuclear weapons. What? Why would they destroy themselves? Science Officer Thexam rushed to the sensor station. His 3 eyes studied the readings carefully. Admiral, they are not targeting population centers. They are destroying infrastructure. Bridges, factories, power plants, communication networks. Anything that might be useful to an occupying force. On the viewing screen, explosions bloomed across Earth's surface like deadly flowers. Humans were systematically destroying anything the Zephyrians might want to capture intact. Roads disappeared under avalanches of rock. Harbors filled with sunken ships. Oil refineries burned with towering flames that could be seen from orbit. This is madness, Commander Zelnox whispered. They are crippling their own civilization. But the humans were just getting started. Intelligence Officer Kekstra approached the Admiral with a data pad full of intercepted communications. Sir, you need to hear what they are saying to each other. She activated the translator and human voices filled the bridge. Operation Scorched Earth is in effect. If we cannot keep it, they cannot have it. All medical supplies are being moved to underground bunkers. Weapons and ammunition take priority. Remember, we only need to kill more of them than they kill of us. Make every shot count. Children and elderly to the tunnels. Everyone else prepare for war. Vextar's unease grew stronger. These were not the words of a defeated people. These were the words of a species preparing for total war. Commander, begin the second phase. Target their major cities. Once they see their population centers burning, they will reconsider. Dumbo. Zephyrian fleet repositioned itself above New York City. The massive human settlement spread out below them like a concrete organism. Millions of lights twinkled in the approaching evening, but as they prepared to fire, something unexpected happened. The lights began going out. Not from damage, but intentionally. Humans were shutting down their own city block by block, building by building. What are they doing? Zelnox asked. Thexam consulted his instruments. They are evacuating, but not in the normal pattern. Military-age individuals are staying behind. Children and non-combatants are being moved to underground locations. Through their enhanced sensors, the Zephyrians could see into the city below. Humans moved through the streets with purpose and organization. They carried weapons, supplies, and equipment into buildings. They were not fleeing. They were preparing defensive positions. They know we are about to attack their city, Vextar said slowly, and they are turning it into a fortress. The plasma bombardment of New York began at sunset. Beam after beam of destructive energy lanced down from the sky. Skyscrapers collapsed, bridges melted, entire city blocks disappeared in flashes of light. But when the bombardment stopped, humans emerged from the ruins. They crawled out of subway tunnels, basements, and reinforced shelters. Many were injured. Many more were dead. But those who survived looked up at the alien ships above them with expressions that chilled the Zephyrian observers. It was not fear. It was hatred. Pure, cold, focused hatred. Admiral, Thexam reported, his voice shaking slightly. I am monitoring their communications. They are not requesting aid or discussing surrender. They are counting their dead and planning revenge. The intercepted human transmissions painted a picture that defied all Zephyrian understanding of warfare. Manhattan is gone, but the tunnels held. We still have 3,000 fighters. Brooklyn Resistance is requesting ammunition. Send everything we can spare. They want to see what real humans look like when we're angry? Let's show them. More disturbing were the civilian communications. Instead of panic, there was a grim determination that spread across the planet like wildfire. Mom, I'm joining the resistance. Take care of little sister. If they want our world, they can have it one bullet at a time. Remember us when you win this war. Admiral Vextar had conquered dozens of worlds. He had seen species fight desperately for survival. He had witnessed last stands and noble defeats, but he had never encountered anything like this. Other species fought to preserve their civilization. Humans seemed willing to destroy everything they had built rather than let their enemies benefit from it. They were turning their entire planet into a weapon. Sir, reported Communications Officer Ziltho, we are receiving another transmission from the human leadership. On screen. This time it was a different human, a male with scars on his face and dirt on his uniform. Behind him, smoke rose from burning buildings. This is General Harrison, speaking for the unified forces of Earth. You have made your intentions clear. Now let us make ours clear. We know we cannot defeat your technology. We know many of us will die. We do not care. You will take nothing from this world but death. For every human you kill, we will kill 10 of yours. For every city you destroy, we will destroy one of your ships. This is not a negotiation. This is a promise. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in stunned silence. Science Officer Thexam approached the Admiral's chair. Sir, I have been analyzing their behavioral patterns. I believe we have fundamentally misunderstood this species. Explain. We assumed their division made them weak, but their division appears to stem from the fact that they are natural warriors. They fight each other because they enjoy conflict. Now that they have a common enemy, all that warrior instinct is focused on us. Vextar studied the planet below. Fires burned across multiple continents. Humans moved like ants through the destruction, but they were not panicking. They were organizing. How many casualties do our projections show for a full ground invasion? Thexam consulted his data pad. His 3 eyes blinked nervously. The initial estimates assumed normal resistance, but based on what we have observed, I would need to revise those numbers significantly upward. How significantly? If they maintain current resistance levels, we could lose 30 to 40% of our invasion force securing just the major population centers. The Admiral's 4 eyes widened. Such losses were unthinkable. The Zephyrian Empire had never lost more than 5% casualties in any previous conquest. But as he watched the humans prepare their defenses in the burning ruins of their cities, Vextar began to suspect that even those revised estimates might be optimistic. The first Zephyrian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere 3 days after the bombardment of New York. Admiral Vextar had decided that orbital strikes alone would not break human resistance. Ground forces would be needed to secure the planet properly. Colonel Dexmore commanded the lead assault battalion. His troops were the finest the Empire had to offer, equipped with plasma rifles, energy shields, and powered armor that could stop bullets and deflect explosives. They had conquered 17 worlds without losing a single soldier. Their target was Chicago, or what remained of it after the orbital bombardment. Intelligence suggested it was a major transportation hub that humans would defend heavily. Perfect for demonstrating Zephyrian superiority. As the dropship settled onto the cracked concrete of what had once been an airport, Dexmore felt confident. Through his helmet's sensors, he could see the devastated city stretching before them. Broken, buildings reached toward the sky like broken teeth. Smoke drifted across empty streets. Remember, he told his troops over the comm system, these primitives have only chemical projectile weapons. Our shields will stop anything they can fire at us. This should be simple. The rear door of the drop ship opened with a hiss. Dexmore stepped out first, his plasma rifle ready. His soldiers followed in perfect formation, their armor gleaming in the dim sunlight. The first shot came from a pile of rubble 50 meters away. A human sniper with an old-fashioned rifle put a bullet through the gap between Dexmore's helmet and chest armor. The colonel dropped to the ground, purple blood pooling beneath him. Before his soldiers could react, the ruins around them exploded into violence. Humans emerged from hiding places that should not have existed. They crawled out of sewers, dropped from overhead, and appeared from holes in the ground that the Zephyrian sensors had somehow missed. The humans had no energy shields. Their weapons were primitive. Their armor was little more than cloth and metal plates. But they fought with a ferocity that shocked the Zephyrian troops. A human child, no more than 12 Earth years old, ran toward a group of soldiers with something strapped to her chest. She was shouting words the translators could not process through the static of battle. The child exploded in a ball of fire, taking 3 Zephyrians with her. An elderly human male rolled a primitive wheeled vehicle packed with explosives into a Zephyrian formation. He died in the blast, but so did 6 more soldiers. 2 human females worked together to topple a damaged building onto a squad of Zephyrians taking cover below. They were crushed by the falling debris, but they had eliminated an entire enemy unit. Within an hour, half of Dexmoor's battalion was dead. The survivors called for immediate evacuation. On the flagship, Admiral Vextar watched the battle reports with growing disbelief. How many casualties? 43 dead, 16 wounded, reported Medical Officer Hickson. And that was just one landing site. Similar reports came in from landing zones around the world. London, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Mumbai. Everywhere the Zephyrians landed, humans were waiting for them. Not with organized military formations, but with something far worse. Every human civilian seemed to be a potential fighter. Sir, Science Officer Thexum approached with new intelligence. I have been analyzing their resistance patterns. The humans have completely abandoned conventional military doctrine. What do you mean? They are not trying to hold territory or protect specific locations. They are trying to kill as many of us as possible before they die. Every engagement is designed to trade human lives for Zephyrian lives at the best possible ratio. The data was disturbing. Humans were using tactics no civilized species would consider. They hid weapons in hospitals knowing the Zephyrians would search medical facilities. They disguised explosives as food supplies, children's toys, and religious artifacts. They turned their own destroyed infrastructure into traps. In Berlin, humans had filled the subway tunnels with a mixture of industrial chemicals that created poisonous gas when Zephyrian energy weapons were fired. 12 soldiers died before the survivors realized what was happening. In Mumbai, humans had rigged the water supply with electrical systems that could be activated remotely. When Zephyrian troops entered the water treatment plant, the humans electrified the entire facility. The soldiers' own powered armor conducted the electricity, killing them instantly. In Sao Paulo, a group of human scientists had converted medical equipment into crude but effective energy weapons. They could not match Zephyrian firepower, but they could kill soldiers who had removed their helmets or suffered damage to their armor. Admiral, Commander Zelnox reported, "We are receiving urgent requests for reinforcements from all ground commanders. Casualties are exceeding projections by a factor of 10. Vextar felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. 10 times? How is that possible? The humans are not fighting like any enemy we have encountered before. They use weapons we did not know. Could be weapons. They turn everything into a trap. Even their dead are dangerous. That last point was particularly disturbing. Humans had begun booby-trapping their own bodies. Zephyrian soldiers checking for survivors would trigger explosives hidden on corpses. It was a tactic so brutal that many soldiers now refused to approach human casualties. But perhaps most unsettling of all was the way humans communicated during battle. Intercepted transmissions revealed a mindset that chilled even veteran Zephyrian officers. "This is Maria Rodriguez, age 16. I am about to attack an enemy position. I do not expect to survive. Tell my family I died fighting. Johnson here. I can see 5 enemy soldiers from my position. I have enough explosives to take them all with me. It has been an honor." Lisa Chen reporting. "The enemy has breached Sector 7. I am activating the building demolition charges. See you all in whatever comes next." These were not the words of soldiers. They were the words of an entire population that had decided death was preferable to surrender. Admiral Vextar called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. The holographic display showed casualty reports from across the planet. The numbers painted a picture he had never seen in decades of conquest. In 3 days of ground operations, we have lost over 400 soldiers, he announced to the assembled officers. That is more than we lost in the entire conquest of the Thuranian system. Science Officer Thexam cleared his throat nervously. Admiral, I have been studying human historical records. I believe this level of resistance is actually normal for their species. Normal? Yes, sir. In their Second World War, human soldiers on a small island called Iwo Jima fought for 36 days against overwhelming odds. They killed or wounded over 28,000 enemy soldiers while defending a piece of land only 8 square kilometers in size. When the battle ended, only 216 of the original 22,000 defenders were still alive. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. You are saying, Vextar said slowly, that humans are willing to accept a 99% casualty rate rather than surrender? Based on historical evidence, sir, yes. And that was when they were fighting other humans. Against an alien species, their determination appears to be even stronger. Commander Zelnox studied the tactical displays. Admiral, at current casualty rates, we will lose our entire ground force before we secure even one major population center. And there are hundreds of population centers on this planet, added Intelligence Officer Kextra. Even if we brought every soldier in the Empire here, we might not have enough. Admiral Vextar stared at the blue and green planet rotating slowly below them. For the first time in his military career, he was facing an enemy that seemed incapable of rational surrender. The humans appeared to view their own deaths not as a tragedy to be avoided, but as ammunition to be spent efficiently. Sir, Communications Officer Ziltho announced, we are receiving another transmission from the human leadership. The screen showed a different human this time, a middle-aged male in a torn military uniform. Behind him, fires burned in what had once been a city. This is General Kim, commander of Asian Resistance Forces. You have been on our planet for 3 days. In that time, we have killed 412 of your soldiers. This is just the beginning. We have 8 billion people on this planet. If we maintain current kill ratios, we will destroy your entire fleet before you conquer even one of our continents. We suggest you leave now while you still can. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian command staff staring at the dark screen. For the first time since the invasion began, Admiral Vextar wondered if they might actually lose this war. Admiral Vextar stood before the tactical display in his command center, studying the red marks that indicated Zephyrian losses across Earth's surface. 2 weeks had passed since the ground invasion began. The red marks seemed to multiply every hour. Admiral, Commander Zelnox approached with the latest casualty report. We have lost over 2,000 soldiers. General Kexral is requesting permission to use chemical weapons against the human population centers. Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed. Chemical weapons were forbidden by Zephyrian military doctrine except in the most extreme circumstances. They were considered the tools of desperate commanders who had lost control of a situation. Denied. We are not barbarians. Sir, with respect, the humans are using chemical weapons against us. The survivors from the London operation report that humans released chlorine gas into the underground tunnels. 16 soldiers died. The humans are primitives fighting for their survival. We are representatives of a civilized empire. We will find another way. But even as he said the words, Vextar felt doubt gnawing at him. The humans had escalated their tactics beyond anything the Zephyrians had prepared for. They seemed to view their own Geneva Conventions and rules of war as suggestions that could be ignored when facing an existential threat. Science Officer Thexam rushed onto the bridge, his 3 eyes wide with alarm. Admiral, you need to see this immediately. He activated a new display showing orbital sensor data. The humans have launched something from their Australian continent. Multiple objects moving at significant velocity. Missiles. Our point defense systems will handle them easily. No, sir. These are not missiles. They appear to be modified space vehicles. On the screen, crude human spacecraft rose through Earth's atmosphere. They were clearly built from salvaged parts and existing technology, held together with what appeared to be primitive welding and metal cables. They should not have been able to achieve orbit, but they did. How many? Vexitar demanded. 17. Confirmed launches, sir. More may be coming. What are they trying to accomplish? Those ships are no match for our fleet. His answer came minutes later when the first human ship reached the outer edge of the Zephyrian formation. Instead of firing weapons or attempting to communicate, it simply rammed itself into the hull of a Zephyrian cruiser. The explosion was massive. The human ship disappeared completely, but it had torn a gaping hole in the cruiser's armor. Atmosphere and crew were sucked into space as the damaged ship began to list. They are using their ships as guided missiles, Thexum reported, his voice filled with disbelief. Suicide attacks. More human ships reached the fleet. Each one aimed itself at a Zephyrian vessel and detonated. The explosions were not large, enough to destroy the alien ships outright, but they caused significant damage and forced the fleet to break formation. How many crew on each of those human ships? Vexitar asked quietly. Sensors indicate between 3 and 7 humans per vessel, sir. So humans were willing to sacrifice small groups of their own people to damage single enemy ships? It was a completely irrational exchange from any civilized perspective. But it was working. Sir, sensor operator Vexum called out urgently. I am detecting massive energy buildup on the planet's surface. Multiple locations. The main screen shifted to show Earth below. Across several continents, bright points of light were growing brighter. Nuclear weapons, Thexum confirmed. They are preparing to detonate nuclear weapons. Against our ground forces? No, sir. The energy signatures are too large and too widespread. I think they are targeting their own major cities. Admiral Vextar felt his blood run cold. They are going to irradiate their own population centers? It appears so, Admiral. If they detonate enough nuclear weapons simultaneously, they could render large portions of their planet uninhabitable for decades. The implications were staggering. The humans were preparing to destroy their own civilization rather than let the Zephyrians have it. It was the ultimate scorched earth tactic. Stop them, Vextar ordered. Target those nuclear sites before they can detonate. Sir, there are over 50 sites. We cannot target them all simultaneously. The first detonations began before the Zephyrian fleet could respond. Nuclear fireballs bloomed across Earth's surface like deadly suns. Moscow, Beijing, Delhi, Cairo. Major population centers disappeared in flashes of atomic fire. But the humans had not simply destroyed their cities randomly. Intelligence Officer Kekstra quickly realized the pattern. Admiral, they are targeting cities that our forces have already occupied or were planning to occupy. They are denying us any intact infrastructure. The radioactive zones would be uninhabitable for years. Even Zephyrian technology could not easily operate in areas of extreme radiation. The humans had just made large portions of their planet worthless to any occupying force. Sir, Communications Officer Ziltho announced, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. A human appeared on the screen. She was young, perhaps 25 Earth years, with burn marks on her face and radiation sickness already beginning to show in her pale skin. This is Dr. Sarah Mitchell speaking from what used to be Chicago. We know you can hear us. We know you are watching. This is our final message to your fleet. You came here expecting to find a planet full of resources and slave labor. Instead, you have found a planet full of humans. We are poisoning our own air, burning our own cities, and killing ourselves by the millions to deny them to you. Every day you stay here, we will make this planet less valuable to you and more costly to take. We suggest you cut your losses and leave while you still can. The transmission ended with static as the signal was lost, presumably when the transmitter was destroyed by radiation. Admiral Vextar sat heavily in his command chair. In 2 weeks, his forces had lost over 2,000 soldiers and 3 ships. The humans had lost millions of their own people and rendered much of their planet uninhabitable. By any rational measure, the Zephyrians were winning. But it did not feel like victory. Admiral, Science Officer Thexum approached cautiously. I have been analyzing the pattern of human resistance. I believe we need to consider the possibility that this campaign cannot be won. Explain. The humans are not trying to defeat us in conventional terms. They are trying to make the cost of conquest higher than any possible benefit. At current rates, we will need to bring the entire Imperial fleet to this system and sustain massive casualties for years to fully secure this planet. And even then, sir, we would be left with a poisoned, radioactive world populated by the survivors of a species that has proven it would rather die than submit. The cost of maintaining control would be enormous. Commander Zelnox studied the tactical displays. Admiral, we are also receiving reports that some of our troops are refusing orders. What kind of orders? Orders to enter areas where human civilians are present, sir. The soldiers report that they cannot tell the difference between combatants and non-combatants. Every human appears to be a potential threat. This was perhaps the most disturbing development yet. Zephyrian discipline was legendary throughout the galaxy, but the stress of fighting an enemy where every encounter could be fatal was breaking down military order. There's something else, sir, Zelnox continued. We intercepted human communications that suggest they are studying our technology. They are reverse engineering our weapons and equipment. That's impossible. Their science is centuries behind ours. Normally, yes, sir, but desperation appears to be an excellent teacher. They have managed to create crude but functional energy weapons, using components salvaged from our damaged vehicles. As if to prove her point, alerts began sounding throughout the bridge. Admiral, sensor operator Vexim reported. Human aircraft approaching from multiple vectors. But these are not like their previous aircraft. On the screen, sleek fighters approached the Zephyrian fleet. They moved with the characteristic blue glow of energy propulsion systems. Human energy propulsion systems, built from stolen alien technology. The fighters opened fire with beams of coherent energy. The weapons were crude compared to true Zephyrian plasma cannons, but they were effective enough to damage ship hulls and knock out sensor arrays. How many? Vextar demanded. 47 confirmed, sir. More launching from the surface. Admiral Vextar watched human pilots in jury-rigged alien technology attack his fleet with the same suicidal determination they had shown on the ground. Several human fighters deliberately rammed into Zephyrian ships after their weapons ran out of power. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vextar began to seriously consider the possibility of retreat. Not tactical withdrawal or strategic repositioning, but full retreat from the Earth system. The humans had done something no enemy in Zephyrian history had accomplished. They had made victory more costly than defeat. 3 months after first contact, Admiral Vextar stood in the ruins of his flagship's bridge. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across twisted metal and shattered displays. Half of his senior staff was dead. The other half bore the haunted expressions of soldiers who had seen too much. The humans had done the impossible. They had taken the fight to space. Status report, Vextar ordered, though he already knew the answer would be bad. Commander Zelnox, her uniform torn and stained with purple blood, consulted a damaged data pad. 17 ships lost, Admiral. 32 more with critical damage. We estimate total casualties at over 15,000. 15,000. In the Empire's entire history of conquest, they had never lost more than a few hundred soldiers taking an entire world. The humans had killed 15,000 Zephyrians while simultaneously destroying their own civilization. How? Vextar asked, though he meant it as much for himself as for his officers. Science Officer Thexum, one of the few senior staff members still alive, activated a holographic display. It showed the evolution of human technology over the past 3 months. They learn, Admiral, faster than any species we have encountered. They took our plasma rifles and within weeks had built crude but functional energy weapons. They studied our ship engines and constructed their own faster-than-light drives. The evidence was displayed in terrible detail. Human ships, built from salvaged Zephyrian technology and their own industrial capacity, had begun appearing throughout the solar system. They were ugly, asymmetrical craft held together with primitive welding and determination. But they worked. Their ships are inferior to ours in every way, Thexum continued. Slower, less armored, weaker weapons. but they use them in ways we never anticipated. The tactical recordings showed human ships ramming Zephyrian vessels at faster-than-light speeds. The kinetic energy released was enormous. Even the massive Zephyrian battleships could not survive such impacts. Other human ships served as mobile bombs packed with nuclear weapons and guided by volunteer crews who knew they would not survive their missions. They would hyperjump directly into the middle of Zephyrian formations and detonate. They are treating their own spacecraft like artillery shells, Zelnox observed. Each ship is expendable as long as it damages us. But the space battles were not the worst part. The worst part was what the humans had done to Earth itself. The planet below was barely recognizable. Nuclear fire had consumed most of the major cities. Vast areas were poisoned with radiation. The oceans were black with oil spills and chemical contamination. The atmosphere itself was toxic from industrial sabotage. And yet, humans continued to emerge from underground shelters and hidden bunkers. They continued to fight. They continued to kill Zephyrians. "Sir," Intelligence Officer Kekstra reported, "we have intercepted communications indicating that human resistance forces have spread beyond Earth." "What do you mean?" "They have established bases on their moon on Mars and on several asteroids in this system. They are using captured Zephyrian navigation data to plot courses to our nearest colonies." Admiral Vextar felt his blood freeze. "They are planning to attack our worlds?" "Yes, sir. And based on their tactical patterns, they will not be seeking to conquer territory. They will be seeking to cause maximum damage and casualties." The implications were staggering. The humans had learned Zephyrian technology and now possessed faster-than-light travel. If they reached Zephyrian space, they would bring their suicidal tactics with them. Entire star systems could be devastated. "How many humans remain on Earth?" Vextar asked. Thexum consulted his instruments. "Difficult to determine, sir. Perhaps 2 billion scattered across underground facilities and remote locations. But the number may be irrelevant." "Why?" "Because they are no longer fighting just for Earth, Admiral. Intercepted communications suggest they view this as a war of extinction. Either they destroy us completely, or we destroy them completely. They do not appear to recognize any other possible outcome." A new alert sounded. Sensor operator Vexim, one of the few junior officers to survive the last human assault, called out urgently, "Admiral, multiple human ships approaching. Configuration unknown." On the damaged main screen, a fleet of human vessels approached the Zephyrian formation. But these were different from the crude attack ships they had seen before. These were larger, more sophisticated, clearly built with a better understanding of alien technology. 67 ships confirmed, sir. They appear to be armed with modified Zephyrian weapons. The human fleet moved with a coordination that had been absent in earlier attacks. They had learned military tactics along with technology. These were no longer desperate survivors throwing themselves at superior enemies. These were soldiers who had studied their enemy and adapted. "Sir," Communications Officer Ziltho announced, "we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet." The face that appeared on screen was scarred and burned, but the eyes held a cold intelligence that made Vextar's skin crawl. It was a human male, perhaps 40 Earth years old, wearing a uniform that mixed human and Zephyrian elements. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Liberation Fleet. You have been in our system for 3 months. In that time, you have learned what happens when someone tries to conquer humanity. We are broadcasting on all frequencies so your empire can hear this message. We know the location of 17 Zephyrian star systems. We have ships capable of reaching them. We suggest you leave our system immediately and mark it as forbidden territory. If you do not, we will visit your worlds and show your people what total war looks like." The transmission continued with coordinates and technical data that proved the humans had indeed learned to navigate interstellar space. "This is not a bluff," the human continued. "We have nothing left to lose. You destroyed our world, but you also taught us how to build starships. We will use your own technology to burn your colonies one by one until your entire empire is ash. Leave now, or face the consequences." The transmission ended. Admiral Vextar stared at the dark screen. fully comprehending for the first time the magnitude of what they had done. They had created a monster. "Admiral," Zelnok said quietly. "Orders, sir?" Vextar looked around the ruined bridge at the faces of his surviving officers. They had served the Empire faithfully for decades. They had conquered worlds and brought glory to the Zephyrian name. Now they waited for his decision on whether to continue a war that might destroy their entire civilization. "Prepare the fleet for withdrawal," he said finally. "Sir, you heard me. All ships prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We are leaving this system. What about the invasion? What about our mission?" Admiral Vextar activated the ship's communication system. His words would be recorded and transmitted to the Imperial Command on the homeworld. "This is Admiral Vexitar of the Conquest Fleet Delta. Mission status: total failure. We made contact with a species called humans. They cannot be conquered, they cannot be reasoned with, and they cannot be ignored. They have learned our technology and are preparing to use it against us. I am declaring this system quarantined. By Imperial decree, no Zephyrian ship is to enter this region of space. Mark it on all navigation charts as forbidden territory." He paused, looking out at the poisoned planet below where billions of humans waited in their underground cities planning revenge. "We came here seeking conquest and glory. Instead, we have created an enemy that will hunt us across the galaxy. We have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. May the Empire forgive our mistake." The Zephyrian fleet began its retreat from Earth space. Behind them, human ships followed at a distance, ensuring they actually left. The message was clear: humans would be watching. Humans would be waiting. Admiral Vextar died 2 days later when a hidden human ship, moving at faster than light speed, rammed into his flagship during the retreat. His final log entry was found in the wreckage months later by a Zephyrian rescue mission. "We made contact with humans and paid in full with our lives. Do not let our mistake become the Empire's extinction." On Earth, in the ruins of what had once been called New York, a group of human children played in the radioactive rubble. They built toy spaceships from scraps of metal and alien technology. When they played war games, they always won. Above them, human engineers worked to repair captured Zephyrian vessels. Soon those ships would carry human explorers to distant stars. They would carry soldiers, scientists, and settlers to new worlds. They would also carry a message to any alien species they encountered. Humanity had learned that the universe was not empty. They had learned that there were other intelligent species among the stars. And they had learned that the best defense was a very good offense. The galaxy would never be the same.